Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installment of D.E.I. Deathwatch, where we chronicle the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am your host, Scribelight. It's Friday, everybody. Friday. I'm not going to sing the Rebecca Black song. I couldn't even if I tried. I don't even remember what the lyrics are. But otherwise, who's joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon? Alexander, good afternoon. Mike Savage, hello. Or Blarg, pardon me. Keeverdam, hello, and thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for opportunity. Please take a look at that. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. I just found out today that, at least as of the last set of tests my father went through this week, that he is still in remission. So, yay for that. He's still not so jazzed on the energy level, but he's still kicking, so to speak. So that's good news. Advocatus Diabli, good afternoon. Who else is here? Anybody else? Juliet, good evening to you. Mike R., hello. Kiro Soldier, hello. Sarah, hello. Or good evening. Good evening. Wait, good evening, y'all. Uh-oh, do I have to put on my southern twang? Do I have to put on my southern twang for this one? Good evening, Sarah. Nice to see you. Blue-Eyed Scream, hello. Faithless, hello. Who else is here? Anybody else? Angelverse, hello. O1 Portnoy, good afternoon. And I think, and Alexander again, hello. Anybody else I missed? Anybody lurking? Anybody in the future? Good afternoon. All right, let's get into it. We got a lot to cover today. Holy cats, a lot of stuff's been going on. Let's start off with what I witnessed yesterday on a press conference at the White House. I had meant to try to live stream it, but it happened too early in the morning, and I just didn't have the opportunity to. But I would have if I could have. So let's just go over it a little bit here. We are going to have a system of merit. Trump White House vows to kill D.E.I. Oh my gosh. I love to hear it. I would like to see it. The White House put corporate America on notice that President Donald Trump plans to replace diversity, equity, and inclusion with a system of system of merit. Appearing alongside Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt during a Thursday morning briefing, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller trumpeted the president's efforts to dismantle DEI in the federal government and the private sector. Quote, "This administration is not going to let our society devolve into communist, woke DEI strangulation," Miller said. I do appreciate both Miller and Tom Homan's strident attitude on their selected topics. I do appreciate that. Quote, "It is not just a social and cultural issue, it's an economic issue," he continued. Quote, "When you hire, retain, and recruit based on merit, as President Trump has directed, you advance innovation, you advance growth, you advance investment, you advance job creation," unquote. He has purged diversity initiatives in the federal government and the military, threatened to strip billions of dollars in federal funding and grants from universities, and pressured major corporations to pull back diversity initiatives or risk losing federal contracts. They should just lose their federal contracts. As far as I'm concerned, if the only thing you're either willing or able to do is to take away federal contracts from these businesses, take them away. Because they have been running roughshod over federal law for a decade or more now. They should not be continued to reap rewards from any of this. And they should be punished. Rolling back their diversity initiatives. We'll be talking about what rolling back looks like in one of the stories here. But rolling back is just getting away with it. And that's all it is. His actions... I assume they're still talking about Trump and not Stephen Miller. His actions have led to widespread changes in diversity programs at major corporations across the country. Yeah, primarily in renaming them and hiding what they are doing. Or, as we've seen with Costco and so many other places, not Target, who was I thinking of? I've suddenly blanked. Anyway, doubling down on them. Oh, Apple, that's what it was. I was thinking of Apple and Costco. Leavitt told reporters Trump is standing by, quote, "the Constitution's promise of colorblind equality," unquote. More or less. Quote, "DEI seeks to divide and pit Americans against each other based on immutable characteristics, It's true. President Trump put an end to it, she said. Well, he's trying to. Quote, in President Trump's America, individual dignity, hard work, and excellence are the only things that will determine if you get ahead, unquote. Yeah, but cronyism and nepotism is still going to exist. I hate to say it. I mean, you guys are in politics after all. DEI initiatives to increase the persistently low percentage of female, black, and Hispanic executives took firmer hold after George Floyd's 2020 murder, I'm going to put quotation marks around murder, forced a historic reckoning with racial disparities in America. No, it didn't force anything. People used the advent of that man's death and danced on his corpse to cash in. George Floyd's death had nothing to do with the makeup of executive teams in major corporations in this country. And DEI was already hot and bothered long before George Floyd ever entered the picture. I have, at least prior to that event, 4 years chronicling it on my channel. But anyway, between 2020 and 2022, the number of black executives rose by nearly 27% in S&P 100 companies, according to a USA Today analysis of workforce data collected by the federal government. Wow, that's an amazing rise in executives based purely on their skin color. I wonder what mechanism was employed to achieve that goal. Is USA Today going to ask that question? That momentum drew a forceful backlash. Momentum driven by winds of what stripe, might I ask? Outright racial discrimination by any chance? In 2023, the ranks of black executives fell 3% from the prior year at twice the rate of white executives, USA Today found. Yeah, because they're starting to get scared of potential backlash. And also because of the affirmative action decision, primarily. Chief among the DEI critics was Miller, a veteran of Trump's first administration. His America First legal advocacy organization issued a slew of legal challenges objecting to common practices, such as setting diversity hiring targets. I mean, if it's a common practice to have racist quotas, then I guess it's okay. I mean, who could argue with a common practice? We just subjugate our women. It's a common practice. Why would anybody have a problem with it? We just make sure that there are only white water fountains and black water fountains. It's a common practice. Why would we? Why should anybody have a problem with such a common practice? Why would you object? Why would you object to a common practice? Those targets, Miller said, were illegal racial quotas for women and people of color. Oh my gosh. You don't say. Quote, we are going to have a system of merit, Miller said on Thursday. I hope he's correct. DEI proponents say DEI is not at odds with merit. Well, DEI proponents are lying. Or they're blissfully ignorant, one of the two, which isn't really a good look either way. In fact, they say DEI is critical to build systems that ensure individuals are rewarded on merit alone. Really? I would love to know who they are quoting here in this. What proponents? I really want to know if they have a TEDx talk I can look at. Quote, the highest performing organizations know that having a meritocracy means you need to make sure that diverse candidates have the same chance to show their merit as others. Paul Argenti, a professor of corporate communication at Dartmouth, wrote in a LinkedIn post championing the business case for diversity. Well, I'm glad he mentioned LinkedIn because I got something about LinkedIn later. A little piece of information they tried to hide, but I found. But anyway, tell me, Professor Argenti, what is the difference? What comprises a non-diverse candidate? What comprises a non-diverse candidate? What elements differentiate a diverse candidate from a non-diverse candidate? And how am I supposed to assess who gets more of a chance than others by that differential? Oh, do you wonder what it is? I know I don't. USA Today reported Thursday that the business world does not appear ready to give up DEI despite the growing pressure from the Trump administration. Really? Really? Even as some corporations scrap commitments, others including Costco, Marriott, hey, we talked about them, Starbucks, and Cisco, we talked about them last time, have publicly defended DEI. Well, they might be in too deep not to at this point. But this is why we need to have demonstrable and meaningful consequences befall these companies. The quote-unquote silent majority is continuing the work despite growing political pressure to defund DEI, sociology professor Donald Tomaskovic Devi told USA Today. Political pressure to defund DEI. You know, Professor, I hate to tell you this, DEI was being defunded long before Trump got into office again. I know I keep saying this, and I'm not just, trumpeting my own horn for the sake of it, but it's absolutely true. I have video after video from 2022 and 2023 of DEI consultants and advocates lamenting the fact that their budgets have been cut long before Trump ran for president again. It was already happening. I think Trump's actions have just sort of sped up the process in some instances and caused some other places to double down on it for the sake of, political PR purposes. Just 8% of business leaders surveyed by the Littler law firm are seriously considering changes to their DEI programs as a result of the Trump administration's executive orders. Nearly half said they do not have plans for new or further rollbacks. So like I say, we need to have someone act as the example. It has to be somebody big, and the punishment has to be severe enough to scare these guys. Because there's a story we're going to be looking at later on that I wish I had come up with the phrasing that this story did to describe the mechanism taking place here. I'll get to that momentarily. Quote, the vast majority of organizations have simply gone quiet, neither retreating from or defending their DEI programs in the public square, said Tomaskovic Devi, who runs the Center for Employment Equity at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, Massachusetts. Well, I looked at their state educational programs regarding DEI not too long ago. Oh, boy, such a small world we live in. Small world. Unfair Ophelia, hello, good afternoon. Hope you're doing good. Josh Hammond, hello. Your internet's favorite lunatic, hello. Anybody else? Faithless, good afternoon. Tall Person, hoy, can't stay, but will like and share. Thank you, Tall Person, appreciate it. Simon Willikins, hello. John Trioxin, hello. Kay Scholl, or Kirsten Scholl, over on the X machine. Yes, everyone, I am simulcasting over on X. If you happen to have an X account and see the stream over there, please do reshare it, retweet it, whatever, if you can. And 00 Govan 00, dog shit content. Well, I aim to please. As best as I can, I aim to please. Moving on. So, DEI is not falling out of favor, is it? Well, let's take a look at a little story from the Washington Post that came out today. DEI vanishing from corporate filings, mirroring business world's retreat. Aha! So the average number of mentions of the phrase DEI was effectively flat 2015, started going up a little bit 2016, 2017, 2019, 2020. Late 2020, oh man, George Flurd. This is the George Flurd era right here. And then, if you'll notice, it started to take a dip. Roundabouts 2023. What happened in 2023? Well, that was the Supreme Court decision, and especially late 2022 when the oral arguments were released, and then now it's on its downward slope. But just the fact that it's being mentioned less does not mean it is less used or implemented under different names. I'll just read a little bit of this. Corporate America's embrace of DEI, the abbreviation for diversity, equity, and inclusion, was already eroding before the Trump administration began purging what it calls illegal and immoral programs across the federal government and agitating for similar changes in the private sector and academia. Well, not according to USA Today, Washington Post. Apparently, only when Trump got into office was DEI suddenly on the downslope. I'm glad you put this chart out because it just completely underscores what I was talking about a moment ago. This was already on its way out, but it was just being eased out slowly and quietly. Now companies can't stealth their way out of this problem that they've made for themselves. But of course, as I say, it all comes down to how much and how effective the enforcement and consequences will be. So I'll have to wait on that. Moving on, I did promise a little surprise I came across. Now, I was thinking about doing a whole other corporate deep dive on a couple of companies, LinkedIn in particular. But as I looked through their stuff, in all honesty, a lot of their diversity reports from the past and the stuff that they've published is all the same kind of fluffy, relatively abstract kind of stuff with some percentiles in there and so on. If you really want me to do one on LinkedIn particularly, I can dig up my links again for that and show them off. But in the course of that, I came across an old diversity report of theirs that had embedded in it a link to a YouTube video that has since been restricted access. But because you had this link, you could still get to it. So you can't find this on YouTube normally. This is hidden. Only if you have, it is unlisted. So I thought, since it's only 2 minutes long, we take a look at LinkedIn's 2022 Workforce Diversity Report and see for ourselves if there's anything implicitly questionable about LinkedIn's programs and goals. Shall we?
Each year, LinkedIn releases our Workforce Diversity Report, where we transparently share how we're progressing against our diversity and inclusion goals.
Diversity and inclusion goals? Goals, you say? What kind of goals are those? And how do you measure success?
At LinkedIn, we made a commitment 2 years ago to double the representation of Black and Latino leaders, managers, and senior individual contributors over a 5-year period.
Oh, okay, so you had a 50% increase target of leaders, managers, and senior individual contributors based on race and ethnicity within a 5-year time frame. Gosh, that feels like a quota based on race and ethnicity for hiring. Golly gee whiz, I wonder if there's something that might be an established federal law. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Established federal law that says something about that. I know, deep thinking. Let's keep going.
And we're really excited about the incredible momentum that we're making in that area. Today, I'm joined by Rosanna DeRuthi, our Global Head of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging. So Rosanna,
sorry, real quick, yes. Once again, I'm an English major, not a math major. Double would be 100%. Yes, a 100% increase, pardon me. Not a 50% increase. I was thinking of doubling. Anyway, my bad, yes. A 100% increase. Yeah, that is a quota. That is a racial, ethnic quota for hiring and promotion practices at a major American company. Now, I'm not saying they broke federal law under Title VII. Maybe there's some kind of loophole or something. I'm not quite sure what that would be, but the possibility exists. The question is, with this practice and however many other times they did it over the course of the last 5-10 years or so, just think about it. How many hiring and promotion decisions did they make that were informed by that quota? Therefore, how many people did they reject hiring or promoting because they were aiming for that quota? Therefore, how many civil rights lawsuits are just waiting to be filed on behalf of a whole slew of people? And especially if they've had these same initiatives over the past 5 years up to 2025, which is right now. It boggles the mind. It boggles the mind how this has been allowed to go on so long, and so when it's so made so blatantly clear what they're doing. They have no shame in saying it. They're proud of it. This is their goal. This is their initiative, to discriminate people on the basis of race and opportunities in jobs and promotion. It has baffled me for the better part of the last 10 years, and it continues to do so.
creating a culture of belonging is integral to what it means for our culture as well as LinkedIn's success.
Does it though? Does anyone who isn't Black or Hispanic belong at LinkedIn if they want to achieve a leadership position? I don't know.
Can you talk about how we're progressing in that area?
Yeah.
Tuela, I am feeling energized and inspired.
Well, with those hot pink pants, I assume you would have to be energized and inspired.
And I'm very happy to report that we have exceeded our initial projections.
Oh, you have? Oh my gosh. Did you speed run your discriminatory hiring and promotion practices? Oh boy, tell me true.
We've grown the Black senior population by 127% since that time.
Oh my gosh, 127%. That's 127%. You've more than doubled it. Wow, simply on the basis of skin color. Yay! Remember, guys, these are corporate executives telling you in no uncertain terms that they are celebrating being racists.
And we've grown our Latino senior employee population by 74%.
74%? Oh, man. Come on. Oh, jeez. That's just 74% compared to 127%. I see a disparity there. Obviously, you're being racist. Again, doubly so.
Which is remarkable.
Yes. And I'm remarking on it. Don't worry.
Expecting to double the growth as we projected ahead of the FY25 fiscal year.
You know, I believe it. I wonder how that initiative eventually ended up. I wonder where they're at now as of actual 2025 rather than projected 2025.
I'm also excited because this growth came in the midst of 34% senior leadership growth at LinkedIn over the last couple of years.
So you've increased middle management population? You didn't create a whole bunch of management positions just in order to fill them with your preferred racial picks in order to say that you've reached these goals. Did you?
We continue to have a positive story. From a gender perspective, women now represent over 45% of our leadership globally.
Wow. Okay. Is that just happenstance, or was that also a target?
Which is an 8% growth pattern over the previous year. So,
okay. Again, that one was kind of ambiguous. Was that a goal? Do you have a long-term horizon on what you're aiming for when it comes to female representation?
So we're continuing to do extraordinary work here, and I'm excited for what the future holds.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak to how our commitment to community and equity are baked into our philosophy here at LinkedIn?
Oh, I think you're telling us more than clearly what your philosophy here is at LinkedIn when it comes to equity. Yeah, remember we were talking about merit earlier and not based on race? They haven't mentioned a single element of merit in any of this. What has been the one element? Well, I should say, what are the two elements so far? We got race, we have gender. That's it. Not training, not education, not skills-based, nothing about talent. Simply, do you look the part?
Our platform enables economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce.
Unless you're Asian or white, maybe. I don't know.
It comes through relationships. It comes through the knowledge that's shared.
It comes through the melanin count you possess.
It comes through the opportunities that are shared. There was a deep understanding that we would need to bring the entire organization along to embody leadership that was inclusive, to create allyship in our workspace.
To make sure that everybody was in on this so that everybody was thus as implicated in any wrongdoing and all had something to lose if it went sideways.
Where we all support each other so that everyone succeeds. We also recognize that as we think about the increase in representation, it becomes incredibly important to think about increasing representation in roles with more responsibility.
Right, so putting people who look the part in more powerful positions to be able to show them off as token successes. Because look, we like people with dark skin, guys. For as many times I've seen things like this, I always have to wonder, how do people who celebrate this kind of thinking, how do they move through the world normally? Like, are they just saying this because they have to? This is their job, this is what they've been paid to do, and so on. Do they move through the world looking at people and assessing their value or their potentiality on the basis of race in their normal everyday? I don't know. I just get curious about that.
And decision-making authority, providing the insights and the perspectives for us to better understand communities that have been marginalized, who have struggled to have access to opportunity.
Right, because someone who is a member of a particular racial demographic is obviously representative of the entire racial demographic in both thought and experience and opinion. That's just the way it works, you know. If we have one person from that racial or ethnic demographic, we know exactly how all those people think. which is not a racist notion in and of itself.
Rosanna, thank you for sharing your amazing wisdom with us all.
Yes, I want to thank you for sharing your amazing wisdom with us all. The amazing wisdom of LinkedIn and their racial quota system. Thank you, LinkedIn, so much. I was so happy to find that and also discover that it was unlisted and effectively hidden from the public. I'm glad you didn't delete it. I'm glad you didn't private it, that it was still out there for consumption, if you could find it. And I did. So there you go. Anyway, that was the LinkedIn portion of this program. Your internet's favorite lunatic, define marginalized. Yeah. Define marginalized, define a non-diverse candidate, and so on. Faithless, if you are all seeking them so hard, have they actually been denied any opportunities? I don't know. And on what basis would they have been if they were? They tell us in no uncertain terms what their focus and what their priorities are. And they've been doing so for years. Please, 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 Stephen Miller, Department of Justice, EEOC, please pick a decent candidate and have something befall them that sends a message. We need to have something more than just a slap on the wrist fine. We need to have something that's more tangible than that. If it has to be pulling all federal contracts out of Microsoft or Amazon or something to send that message, you should do it. And do it quick. Because these guys are going to get away with it if you don't. Or they're just going to put it underground and just rename it and just wait you out. They'll wait until Trump is no longer president and just keep going. But as I mentioned earlier, there was something I came across, and I'm not going to read the whole story. I don't think it's that interesting per se as compared to some other things we have here. But the opening part struck me as, whether the author meant to do it or not, and I assume he did, one of the most concise ways to describe exactly what the problem is. This is a story from Forbes. Forbes that has consistently been a cheerleader for DEI. The business impact of New York's new DEI Constitution compliance. Don't know what a constitution is on this, but here we go. Among other complications, companies are now having to navigate a maze of new executive orders and political pressures. But here's the kicker, and this is, or I read this and I was like, I wish I had come up with that phrasing of it because it's absolutely perfect. Despite all the headlines and debates in Washington, D.C., the actual federal laws haven't changed. What has changed is the level of risk. And that is exactly the point, isn't it? Prior to the decision by the Supreme Court to get rid of affirmative action, because people pretended like the existence of affirmative action was a green light in both public and private organizations to run DEI like this because, well, it's just like affirmative action. As soon as the winds started to change, the level of risk they were willing to take in openly defying federal law, has altered as well. So yeah, the federal laws haven't changed. The risk assessment has. But it'll only change if that risk is seen to fruition in consequences. So that's the drum I'm going to keep beating until I see something significant. We're starting to see it in the colleges. We're starting to see it in that wise, which I'm happy to see. But those places are relatively low-hanging fruit, both politically and financially. Because, Harvard University isn't making $1 million donations to Donald Trump's campaign or his inauguration or anything. So we really need to see a major corporate entity feel the pain of their violations. We need that. That's what I'm waiting for. And I know these things take time. I know it's not a light switch. It's only been 100 days. And I appreciate Stephen Miller's rhetoric on the subject, but I need to see some follow through. Otherwise, like I say, it's just not going to change. Speaking of Harvard, let's take a look at Harvard's own little newsletter and how they are trying to sugarcoat their decline after a fashion. At least that's how I read it. Harvard's DEI rebrand will serve it well. It reminds me of some of those Hollywood headlines like, Men don't want to see Charlie's Angels, and that's a good thing. And then like a month later, it's like, why didn't men go see Charlie's Angels? Harvard's latest DEI makeover demonstrates that the best offense is a stalwart defense. I don't know how renaming, rebranding, or rolling back your DEI initiatives equates to a defense, but okay. On Monday, Harvard announced 2 key changes to its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. It will rename the Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging to Community and Campus Life, and will no longer fund or host affinity celebrations during commencement. You mean racially and ethnically segregated celebrations at commencement? You mean those? I love how they use affinity. Yes, affinity. Given Washington's grievances with all things DEI, one may assume Harvard is merely doing what some of its compatriot institutions have done, accede to Trump. Well, if they want to keep that federal money, yeah. Because of Harvard's unique, full-throated rejection of Trump's demands, the new moves are far from an empty gesture of submission. Oh, what are they really? Instead, they represent a practical shift in Harvard's approach, helping to both better define the work of its office and to insulate itself from unnecessary criticism. No, I gotta ask, why weren't you doing this stuff before Trump came into office? If it's such a good move, why did it take Trump to make you do it? The changes will shore up Harvard's image while retaining the more uncontroversial functions of DEI. Oh, so Harvard's image is under threat? But why? You've done nothing wrong. And what are the uncontroversial functions of DEI? As Trump's incursion against higher education has progressed, schools like Columbia University and the University of Pennsylvania have abandoned the language of DEI in appeasement of the White House amid threats of federal funding cuts. Well, yes, they don't want to continue biting the hand that feeds them, as Harvard is also kind of scared of right now when it loses federal funding and its potentially tax-exempt status because of its rampant support of anti-Semitism and other kind of movements on its campus. The Mom, thank you so much. But Scribe, what about that thing called Title 6 and 7? Who cares? Who cares? And I say that in kind of a joking, sarcastic way, but I'm also kind of serious. If you do not enforce the law, as the federal government seemingly has not done for the last decade or more, what is the point of Title VI? What is the point of Title VII? Why even bother having them? I mean, for all intents and purposes, the meat of the Civil Rights Act might as well not even exist. A law is not a law unless it's enforced. And that's what I'm hoping we're seeing more of as time goes on. But thank you, the Mom. Yes, what happened to it? What about that thing? Apparently it doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Let's see. As Trump's incursion against higher education has progressed, schools like Columbia University and the University of Pennsylvania have abandoned the language of DEI in appeasement of the White House amid threats of federal funding cuts. With its filing of a lawsuit against the federal government, Harvard proved its willingness to fight the Trump administration and its wildly overreaching demands. So why make conciliatory schemes now? Well, I think I might have an answer to that. Now, I don't have this story at hand, unfortunately. I wish I did. But let me pull it up here real quick. I have a screenshot of at least the headline, which might give you a hint as to why. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Harvard promises changes after reports on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. All right, so in summary here, the 2 reports, which run hundreds of pages, come at a difficult time for the university, which is suing the Trump administration over federal funding cuts. So here's where the rubber meets the proverbial road. In 1983, there was a court case called Bob Jones University versus the United States of America. And in very layman's summary, do not take me on gospel on this because I am not a lawyer, but in summary it said that if you have a public institution that is accepting federal funding that promotes a rampantly anti-religious or discriminatory program or ideology on your campus and so on, you can lose your tax-exempt status and or federal funding, depending on the circumstances. That precedent was set back in 1983, and the Trump administration has pursued that same line of reasoning in trying to remove Harvard's tax-exempt status, along with its federal funding on the basis of discrimination grounds regarding race and elsewise. So Harvard's getting it with both barrels right now. And in the middle of all this, they've had to effectively admit that there's a problem on their campus with anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, which makes it kind of hard to argue that the Trump administration is unjustified in taking away their tax-exempt status and or their federal funding. So I don't know if the Harvard Crimson knew about this at the time that they were writing this, but all the same. With its filing of a lawsuit against the federal government, Harvard proved its willingness to fight the Trump administration and its wildly overreaching demands. Yeah, it's overreaching demands of stop discriminating on the basis of race, stop discriminating on the basis of religion. So why make conciliatory schemes now? With a legal battle underway, there is no value in giving in. Harvard has attempted to preserve its independence. These decisions aren't about appeasing Trump. They are about fighting him. So effectively capitulating to the demands of the big evil guy that you are framing him to be is actually a good thing. That's about fighting him, okay? Like it or not, DEI, or any permutation of those three letters, I don't know. EID, ID, I don't know. I guess it depends. I've never really heard it in anything else. I've heard equity, diversity, and inclusion before. Sometimes. It's mostly DEI. Is controversial. Recent polling suggests that Americans are deeply divided on DEI, with a slim plurality supporting its elimination. Oh, so if this were a democracy, which I've heard you guys are very big on, then it should be eliminated. Okay. After a year and a half of abysmal public relations, the last thing Harvard needs is to further invite criticism from half the American public. So you're appeasing the mob. You're not appeasing Trump. Is that it? What's more, we don't need an office labeled DEI to have diversity on our campus. You're correct. You're correct. A rose by any other name. As the White House makes demand after demand, Harvard needs every bit of public goodwill it can muster, seeking to be less divisive, could be decisive. Ooh, I like that. We wager many would be surprised to learn that some of the work done by Harvard's DEI office seems remarkably uncontroversial and worth supporting, as we noted in an editorial last year. Oh, like I say, you can have all types of things under the umbrella of DEI that individually taken are completely innocuous. That's not the point. DEI is not an indictment against something in particular being illegal, but it is a giant red flag that something should be looked into. Previous initiatives include a pre-orientation program that gives incoming first-generation and low-income first-years guidance on navigating Harvard and funding for more accurate medical textbooks for various body types that represent the wide range of human body types. I have a feeling that the only real variable in this context is just the thickness of the fat layer. I could be mistaken. There is no reason for such work to fall victim to undeserved criticism, and a rebrand helps ensure it won't. Again, I'll give you that. The thing that you just described, as far as I can tell, unless, of course, you're leaving something out, which I'm sure you never would, doesn't seemingly violate Title VI, because we're not talking about race, unless you start attributing body type to race, but I'm sure no one would ever do that. Anyway, this goes on for a bit, but you get the gist. The Harvard Crimson is doing its best to put a shine on the turd that is Harvard's DEI programs, and also trying to make its capitulation to pressure from the Trump administration as a sign of fighting back. Or, we're going to hide it better, which is better for our PR. That's all. Oi, I say. Let's see. Faithless, because they knew they were breaking the law. Well, whether they knew or not, the issue was they weren't facing any consequences for doing so. They should have lost their federal funding. years ago, but the cover and ambiguity of affirmative action allowed them to operate that way for a long time and justify a whole bunch of tangential programs and activities on that same basis and philosophy for a long time. Well, now purportedly, the bill is coming due. And I say purportedly because really I want to see something happen. We need to have an example made. In the academic arena, Columbia and Harvard are good targets because they've been running roughshod over federal law for years. And there's no reason why they should still have federal funding. There's no reason why they should still have tax exemption status. They have violated the law over and over again, and gleefully so. So I'll be curious to see what the end result is of Trump's incursion on Harvard in particular. But moving on to the wonderful world of medicine. Oh, and actually, no, I'll save medicine for last because I have one more college-related story. A crackdown on diversity programs is reshaping college graduation ceremonies. Now, I haven't read this article yet, but I could kind of imagine maybe what we're talking about. Are we talking about affinity group type ceremonies or separate graduations for people on the basis of their race or their gender or their orientation? Activities on campus that might be questionably illegal. Let's move on and see what happens. As a first-generation college student, okay, I know it's cool if you're the first one in your family to go to college. I don't know what that is supposed to mean to anybody else. I mean, I was a first-generation college student. So what? What special status is that supposed to bestow upon me, or special consideration should it bestow upon me? I'd really like to know. I think I've asked that before. I suppose at like Harvard and Ivy League schools, if you don't already have a legacy attached to it, then maybe you don't get the same privileges or something. But otherwise, if you're the first person in your family to go to college, so? JPS, thank you so much. Appreciate it very much. Like I don't already have trust issues with colleges, Harvard is taking it to a whole new level. Oh, Harvard has been so full of themselves for years and years and years now. Both the college proper and their medical division, I've done a couple of streams on that in the past. They are all happy about talking about diversity, assessing people on the basis of their race, fighting for affirmative action, on and on. And like we see, they have a lot to lose for having been so proud this whole time for the discriminatory practices. Billions of dollars in federal funding, and even more so if they lose their tax exemption. If Harvard University had to start paying taxes on top of losing all the federal funding, oh boy. The tidal wave. Oh, going to all of their alma maters, pardon me. What's the word I'm looking for? People who have previously gone to their colleges, their donors, and saying, "Hey guys, we need some more. We need more money. More money, please. Money, please." But anyway, so let's go back to this. As a first-generation college student, Austin Kissinger was looking forward to celebrating graduation with others of similar backgrounds who helped each other find their way at the University of Kentucky. Well, here's the thing. If your entire graduating class is graduating together, then you all have a similar background of graduating from the University of Kentucky. I know! It's crazy to find a common through line of achievement and merit that you all can share. But I have a feeling that when we're referring to backgrounds here, it's got nothing to do with achievement, does it? Typically, Kentucky students who are the first in their family to graduate from college pick a faculty member to join them in a special ceremony. Okay, well, I asked a question, I got an answer. So if I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college, I get to pick a faculty member to join them in a special, what kind of ceremony? Is it like a, choosing hat ceremony or something? Or sorting hat, pardon me. I'm not a Harry Potter aficionado. It took me a second. Sorting hat. Earlier this month, the university canceled the ceremony. okay, along with other convocations that recognize Black and LGBTQ plus students, citing the Trump administration's campaign to rein in diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Well, again, it's not so much about DEI, as I say, and will continue to say over and over again, than it is established and long-standing civil rights laws regarding institutions that accept federal financial assistance, specifically on the basis of racial discrimination. I know. I am just a broken record. I just am. Thank you, Assassin of the Gray, so much. It's very generous of you. Thank you. Scribelight, I fail to see why the American citizen must subsidize these Ivy League entities they most likely are not allowed access to in the first place. They want donations, beg alumni, and donors. And that was the word I was looking for, alumni. Yes. I can't go to Harvard. I couldn't go to Harvard if I wanted to. I couldn't afford it. I wouldn't get a scholarship, right? I mean, billions and billions and billions, I sound like Carl Sagan or something, billions of dollars going to Harvard in particular to prop up an institution that would not have me as its member, right? Yeah. No, these colleges should not be getting this much amount, this amount of money, and certainly they shouldn't be getting any money at all if they violate federal law. If I violated federal law, what do you think would happen to me? What should happen to me? Why doesn't it happen? Why does not the sword of Damocles fall on these major institutions that accept tons and tons of taxpayer money, and the one thing that they are demanded not to do to maintain it is not to discriminate on the basis of race? And yet, there you go. It should be very simple. And Harvard has made, again, just like all these corporations, Harvard as well has not made any bones about what their focus is, what their goals are, what their intentions are. This isn't some kind of like, oh, I'm reinterpreting reality to get back at Harvard or something from Trump. No, these colleges, these businesses have told us to our faces over and over and over and over again for the last decade, hey guys, we're in flagrant violation of federal law. Ha 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 ha. Try and catch us. But nothing happens. I try to think, but nothing happens. Thank you, Frosted Glass. When Dems see black on stage, they try bidding. Oh, ooh, ooh, ooh. That's a history joke, everybody. That's a history joke. A true history joke, not a 1619 Project history joke. Let's see. Those student groups, Black and LGBTQ plus, those are groups? They're not demographics. Okay. Those student groups pooled resources for a celebration together off campus without the school's involvement. Well, there you go. That's perfectly within your prerogative. There you go. So what's the problem? But Kissinger said the about face left him and others feeling unsupported. Well, I want to know what the special ceremony is. Is it a ceremony segregated from others on the basis of your race and or your orientation? Left him and others feeling unsupported. Quote, it's kind of like you're taking away our celebration, like you're not letting us embrace who we want to be, said Kissinger, a graduating senior who leads the university's first-generation student organization. Quote, you're not letting us represent what we do at the university, unquote. What you do at the university. You're either not straight or you're black. Is that a verb now? What? Okay, here's the thing, and it goes back to that Thomas Sowell quote, which I wish I could recite verbatim, but in layman's terms, when equality comes upon those who have had privileges the entire time unfairly, equality might seem like oppression, but it's not. It's just that you're no longer in a favored status. You don't get special privileges anymore because we're taking the special out of it. Everybody gets to graduate. If you want to have your racially segregated ceremony off campus, that's up to you, but not on campus, because that would be a violation of federal law. What you do at the university. President Donald Trump's calls to eliminate any program that treats students differently because of their race. Yes, because again, yes, it was Donald Trump, guys. It was Donald Trump who said that programs or activities that discriminate on the basis of race need to go away. None of this ever existed before Donald Trump got back into office, everybody. You cannot trust the media these days. President Donald Trump's calls to eliminate any program that treats students differently because of their race has brought a new scrutiny of affinity graduation ceremonies. Why is that? The events have long been a way to build community and recognize the achievements and unique experiences of underrepresented students. We've been doing it a long time, everybody. It's been going on a long time without any real challenge. There's no problem with it. Why is there a problem with it? Why would you have a problem with something that's been going on for a long time? Turning people into cattle. Turning people into property. We've been doing it for a long time. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, because you do it a long time, that means it's okay. Many affinity ceremonies are on track to proceed as usual around the country, with colleges saying the events comply with new guidance. Well, I guess if you want to get picky about it, and I suppose you would have to, if you had an event that did not discriminate specifically on the basis of race, but simply orientation, I guess technically you would not be violating Title VI. So I guess there's that. It would still be discriminatory, and you'd still be segregating people off on the basis of effectively immutable aspects of their makeup and nothing to do with their merit, but whatever you want to push. But some colleges are pulling back support. Those would be the smart colleges. Those include Harvard University, which is battling the Trump administration over demands related to campus activism and diversity efforts on campus. Or maybe like faculty promotion of purely anti-Semitic movements on campus. Maybe that. From the river to the sea, etc. Despite suing the administration over some of its attempts to force change on campus, Harvard told students it would no longer provide funding, staffing, or spaces for affinity celebrations, the Harvard Crimson student newspaper reported, as we just read. At the University of Kentucky, spokesperson Jay Blanton said the main commencement celebrates all students. Yes, because they're all there under the equality of having graduated from the University of Kentucky. That is a marker of merit, shared merit, that has nothing to do with what you look like or who you go to bed with, but something you actually achieved. As an entire collective of a graduating class, you can all say you have one thing in common. You all graduated from the University of Kentucky. There you go. He said the university did away with others to comply with the law. So you were violating the law. Okay. Quote, and how we believe it is being interpreted by the administration, unquote. Okay, well, that's entirely your prerogative. If you decided to get rid of programs and activities that you think Trump is talking about, great. But it's that first part. Did away with others to comply with the law. So you were out of compliance with the law for as long as those ceremonies have been running. In other words, you've been breaking the law for years. Okay. Quote, the success and support of our students is a principle and purpose that is incredibly important to us. Well, obviously, they, at least in part, pay your bills. Everything we do on this campus, we do with that in mind as our goal, Blanton said. Quote, at the same time, we believe we must comply with the law and are doing so here. Well, how gracious of you. Thank you so much, Mr. Blanton. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you guys are following the law. I know. It is a heavy burden for me personally on a daily basis to, I believe I must comply with the law. At the same, I have my principles and my values. At the same time, I got to comply with the law for all that, raiding and pillaging I otherwise would want to be doing in my regular day. Come on, AP, what are you doing? Around the country, universities have come under increasing pressure to get in line with the political agenda of Trump's administration. The political agenda, which is comply with federal law. That's a political agenda. Comply with longstanding federal law, which has already frozen billions of dollars in grants for Harvard, Columbia University, and other colleges over allegations that they have not done enough to counter anti-Semitism. Well, again, Bob Jones University v. United States of America, 1983, and Title VI. So there you go. The Education Department directed colleges to distance themselves from DEI with a Dear Colleague letter in February. It said a 2023 Supreme Court decision outlawing the use of racial preferences in college admissions also applied to things like hiring, scholarships, and graduation ceremonies. Well, again, not to belabor the point, but I'm going to do so again, just for everybody's reference. Okay. Title VI, Civil Rights Act of 1964, it prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. Okay, now, could your hiring process at a university that accepts federal funding, could that be construed as a program and or activity? I'd say probably so. But even if it wasn't, let's say it wasn't, well, then there's Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which covers all employers, regardless of whether you accept federal funding. So, yeah, if at any time you guys in your admissions programs or hiring and so on were discriminating on the basis of race in particular, or other things, if we're talking Title VII, you were still tempting fate. The administration contended American educational institutions have been discriminating against students, including white and Asian American students. Contended. Well, tell me true, AP, what were the affinity ceremonies that are being highlighted in this story at University of Kentucky? What did those affinity ceremonies cover specifically? That's right, black students and LGBTQ plus students. I didn't see anything about an affinity ceremony for Asian students. I didn't see an affinity ceremony for white students, so you got anything to say about that? Quote, in a shameful echo of a darker period in this country's history, many American schools and universities even encourage segregation by race at graduation ceremonies and in dormitories and other facilities, read the letter, which was signed by Craig Traynor, the Education Department's acting assistant secretary for civil rights. I did a video years ago about Boise State, I think it was. It was either Boise State or Boise University. I always get those mixed up. Anyway, they were talking about their black graduation. Yeah, they had a separate graduation just for black students. And they were dithering over the possibility that maybe this isn't in compliance with the law. And that was like, 5 or 6 years ago now? The practice has roots in the era of segregation at some schools, but organizers of black convocations today say they are a way to celebrate the accomplishments of diverse student populations that were once overlooked. Well, why don't you guys move into the 21st century and just accept the fact that you can graduate with everybody else on equal terms? Wasn't that the goal? Many colleges also have lavender graduations, which celebrate LGBTQ plus students and grew out of a time decades ago when many lacked support from their families. Okay, well, we're decades in the future now, so your family troubles don't mean you get to violate either the law or start segregating people on the basis of orientation. Or at least I should say it's probably not a good idea. For students who are in the first in their families to attend college, it can be easy to feel out of place or unsure of where to turn for help, Kissinger said. Why? You have student counselors. You have other students. There's a whole infrastructure at most colleges to inform students about where to go, what to do, and elsewise. This is the first time in hell. You know, I have I had friends who were not the first in their family to attend college, and that didn't help them navigate college any better with mom or dad who had gone to college previously. What is that supposed to mean? At Kentucky, he said he often felt like he had to figure out everything on his own. Oh my God, do you mean you had to become an independent adult? Oh no, everybody, can you believe it? When you go off to college and you get past the age of 18, you have to figure things out for yourself? Oh my God, I can't, I just don't know what My Lord. You poor baby. The affinity ceremony, he said, was intended as a celebration of resilience and pride that they reached graduation. That's what graduation is for, writ large. You graduated from college. There is a ceremony for graduation that all graduates attend. It is a celebration of resilience and pride that you reached graduation. You want a special graduation. You want to be more special than everybody else for something that says absolutely nothing about your character or your merit. You like sleeping with men. Who cares? Arizona's Maricopa County Community Colleges called off all its cultural and special interest convocations, citing in a statement, quote, enforcement priorities, unquote, set by the U.S. Education Department. Well, there you go. But the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community volunteered. Why is community capitalized at that point? The Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community volunteered to host a convocation ceremony for American Indian graduates. That's perfectly fine. If it's independently done and off campus, then who cares? I have no complaint or criticism. All right. Quote, while we are deeply disappointed by the cancellation of convocation ceremonies for minority students, you're deeply disappointed by segregated graduation ceremonies on college campuses. Okay, well, I mean, if that's how you feel about it. We believe it is important to come together as a community to honor our graduates and their families, unquote, Community President Martin Harvier said in a statement. At Ohio University, Aaron Thomas arranged for his alma mater's Black Alumni Weekend to go forward this spring after the university canceled it to comply with a state prohibition on DEI, or maybe a federal prohibition on basis of Title VI, which echoes the federal directive. Thomas, who runs a production company near the university's campus in Athens, Ohio, planned to foot the bill for an alumni barbecue until the mayor's office, nonprofits, and restaurants pitched in to organize a weekend of events. Well, hey, again, if you wish to put on something independently of the college who is accepting federal money, then by all means. Among the schools with affinity events planned over the next few weeks is California State University, Long Beach, which says its celebration for Pacific Islander and Cambodian students, among others, comply with the administration's guidance because they are open to anybody. Then why have them? Why bother putting on a ethnically specific or segregated event if it's open to everybody? Just have one graduation and save everybody the time and the trouble. Quote, our students are looking forward to these celebrations, which are open to all and are consistent with guidance from the Department of Education, spokesperson Jim Milbury said. Well, yeah, okay, great, they comply with it. But in spirit, aren't you elevating people outside of others simply on the basis of their ethnicity or their country of origin? Seems a little odd. Anyway, on its website, a statement included with information about the cultural celebrations acknowledges the changing college landscape. Quote, particularly as federal immigration policies evolve. As federal immigration policies evolve? You mean as federal immigration policies are enforced finally? There may be concerns that representatives and officers from U.S. immigration enforcement agencies may visit university campuses across the country, it says. Well, if you're in the country illegally, then maybe they should. Quote, while we have no knowledge of any planned visit to our campus, we offer this information. Just a heads up, everybody. If you're currently illegally in the country, consequences may be oncoming, as they always have been, always should have been. Just so you know. But there you go. That's graduation. My special graduation ceremony that's just for me, for something that says nothing about who I am and is not something I achieve, but just am. It's being taken away. I don't feel as special anymore. Obviously, I'm being oppressed. Boo to the who. Let's see. Faithless cannot just celebrate them as graduates and not based on their race or kinks. I know. Just a common achievement. They all got through college and got their diplomas. That's supposed to be the shared experience. Oh no, we have to be segregated and made double plus special over here with our own ceremony. because, and also faithless. How infantile these students. Well, apparently that guy just couldn't operate on his own 2 feet without someone holding his hand all the way through. But, some people take a long time to grow up. What can I tell you? And lastly for today, we have a medical story. Woke hospital could be in crosshairs of Trump administration after scathing complaint alleges DEI discrimination. America First Legal, which again is headed by Stephen Miller of the White House, accused Henry Ford Health of using federal money to promote DEI initiatives. Okay, so Henry Ford Health, at least implicated by this headline, is a recipient of federal financial assistance, which means they fall under Title VI. Let's read on. A pro-Trump legal nonprofit has filed an official complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services calling for an investigation into diversity, equity, and inclusion practices at a prominent Midwest hospital system following a Fox News digital report on criticism of those policies. The complaint, which was filed by America First Legal to the Civil Rights Office of HHS, charges that Henry Ford Health has, quote, implemented and institutionalized an organization of race and sex-based discrimination under the banner of diversity, equity, and inclusion across its operations, including its employment practices, residency programs, and delivery of patient services, unquote. All right, so again, Title VI deals explicitly with race. If you accept federal financial assistance, you are disallowed from discriminating in any of your programs or activities on the basis of race. And under Title VII, of course, with employment, you have race, color, religion, sex, or national origin that you have to worry about. The complaint comes after Consumers Research, a leading nonprofit dedicated to consumer information, launched an ad campaign alleging the hospital's DEI policies and transgender treatment for children had put, quote, politics over patients, unquote, Fox News Digital exclusively reported. The AFL is demanding an, quote, immediate investigation, unquote, as it accuses HFH of using federal dollars to promote DEI initiatives, including racial quotas in their hiring practice, prioritizing organ transplants based on race. Oh, that's a good one. Elevating, quote, identity restricted, unquote, students for medical scholarships, and awarding supplier contracts based on race and gender. And of course, this is a very, very common practice amongst many corporations and organizations in this country. And obviously, since it's a common practice, there's no reason to challenge it. Quote, failure to act in the face of such egregious and well-documented violations would not only signal tolerance of unlawful discrimination, but would undermine the federal government's duty to ensure that taxpayer dollars are not used to advance unconstitutional or ideologically driven practices, the AFL wrote in the complaint. Well, golly gee whiz. Where have you guys been all my life, or at least the life of my YouTube channel? Please have consequences befall. The complaint accuses HFH of violating Title VI, yay, of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination based on race, gender, or national origin, and Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act, which prohibits such discrimination within the healthcare industry. Yay. The AFL also alleges that HFH is violating President Donald Trump's executive order, which is completely superfluous and irrelevant because they already violate Title VI and conceivably Title VII, so it doesn't matter. And this is the thing. Trump's executive order is just restating the obvious. They keep leaning on this executive order like it's something new, like he created new law or something. He didn't. All it is saying you need to comply with existing federal law. You guys have operated under this banner of DEI for too long, and that's the most sort of shorthand signifier that your organization is probably out of compliance with federal law. Quote, since 2021, HFH has received nearly $1 billion in federally obligated awards containing DEI-related provisions that embed race and sex-based priorities into clinical research and administrative functions. These awards show that HFH operates federally funded programs that affirmatively integrate DEI into its internal governance, recruitment, clinical decision-making, and service delivery, the AFL said. The complaint described HFH's discriminatory programs and practices as flagrant, ongoing, and systemic violations of non-discrimination mandates, unquote, and an, quote, unlawful misuse of federal taxpayer funds, unquote. Yes. Now do Meta. Now do Google. In addition to a formal investigation into HFH's alleged violations, the AFL is requesting a compliance review of all HHS-funded programs, a suspension of all race and sex-based policies and practices, revised HFH plans to comply with federal civil rights law, legal and administrative penalties for noncompliance, and referral of, quote, any potentially unlawful conduct, unquote, to federal enforcement agencies, including the U.S. Department of Justice and the Office of Inspector General. Good. The AFL described the Midwest Hospital as perpetuating, quote, a sweeping, deliberate, and ongoing pattern of discriminatory practices by a major healthcare institution receiving significant federal support, unquote. The complaint is addressed to leading cabinet members, including HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Attorney General Pam Bondi, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It also addresses Department of Justice Civil Rights Chief Harmeet K. Dillon, U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Chair Andrea R. Lucas, Director of Office of Federal Operations at the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Charlton M. Haddon, and Senior Bureau Official at the Department of State Riley M. Barnes. All across the board, pull the federal fund. Just do it. just do it. Just pull it. Pull the federal funding from Harvard, from Henry Ford, from all these places. Just do it. Pull the switch. You have the power. Teach these guys a lesson. Send a message to all these other organizations. Please, just stop dithering around and just do it. You are empowered to do so under the Constitution and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Just do it. Bring out the Nike logo. Just do it. Anyway, that's the bulk of the story. If you'd like to read the rest of it, the link is in the description below. But my voice is reaching the end of its capabilities after so much talking, both on Midnight's Edge in the morning this morning and now. By the way, if you didn't see a Midnight's Edge in the morning this morning, we talked a lot about the Thunderbolts movie, which I saw yesterday, which I posted I will admit, a somewhat ramshackle review on my channel yesterday. I recorded it right after I got home from the movie, so it's a little scattered. I'm not as professional as some of the professional movie reviewers out there, but if you're curious about my initial thoughts on it, you can listen to the first 5 or 10 minutes and get the gist. But let's see, what else? Oh, yes, I should probably, let's make a new link to the Discord server. Would you guys like to join the Discord server if you're not already a member of the Discord server? Well, I can tell you I have a Discord server. And if you'd like to join the Discord server, well, I can give you that link right now in the chat. Click on that link, you'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you are not a bot, have actually watched the stream, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is Harvard. Just say hello, Harvard, and I'll know that you watched the show. A couple more comments here before we get out of here. Assassin the Gray, Marvel Thunderbolts equals DC Unaliving Squad. I have to be careful with that word because YouTube doesn't like that word. In the comic books, some iterations of the team, yes. Not all. Some yes, not all. And actually, the original concept for the Thunderbolts was not at all like that. They were a bunch of supervillains who were pretending to be superheroes to further an evil scheme. And if you can find that trade paperback, it's called Justice Like Lightning. It's actually pretty good. It's got some very 90s art in it, but it's very good. Advocates Diablo. I still have no idea what this Thunderbolts thing is. Well, ideally, it's a bunch of mid-tier to Z-list supervillains in the Marvel Universe being forced together into a team setup to undertake missions either independently or of the American government or elsewise. At least that's what they evolved into. So yes, they became something like a squad per DC, but it all depends on the writers and the particular narrative. And Frosted Glass, the consequence for any doctor who helped transition children should be that they undergo every treatment the child did. Man, that TEDx, actually there's a couple of TEDx's about that I looked at, but that one in particular where the lady was advocating for pre-adolescent surgery. Anyway, with that pleasant thought in mind, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, link pinned to the top of the chat box. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. If you like this kind of thing, please leave a comment below if you're listening to this in the future, or like it with that little button on the bottom there, or you can also share it out on social media, whatever social media you're using these days, like ICQ or AOL or Google Buzz or GChat or Napster, MySpace, Friendster, your personal Angel Fire website, GeoCities, I don't know, whatever the kids are using these days, wherever you share it out, I appreciate it. But particularly on X, if you share out links to my stuff, whatever it is, please do remember to tag me in your sharing so I know that you did so I can thank you personally. Everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Friday. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend ahead of you. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.